He only survived thanks to blind luck. Give me one good reason to put him in the program, Mom.
I think you just covered them all, Greenway.
Project 007 at long last has a name. 007 First Light, and seemingly for the first time in quite some time, Bond fans have something to get excited about. During Sony's recent State of Play, IO Interactive revealed a trailer for a genuinely intriguing new take on the Bond franchise, with the introduction of a new, younger Bond untethered by any of the previous iterations of the character. But before we jump to the end, let's remind ourselves of the start. Pierce Brosnan's Bond was pretty much the only iteration of the character to boast notable titles against his name, with the N64 masterpiece GoldenEye, Eurocon's chart-topping Nightfire, and Visceral Games, who are now known for Dead Space, thrilling fans with everything or nothing. The problem is that was 20 years ago, and all the wet attempts since led to the brand being protected from further embarrassment, which has meant no Bond games for almost 15 years. That was until co-owners of IO Interactive, Hakan Abrak and Christian Elverdam, best known for their own assassin, Agent 47 from the series Hitman, pitched their vision for Project 007 to the Bond rights holders, who reportedly were still disillusioned by the past games and reluctant to give video game adaptations another try, being especially wary of signing off on another action-heavy shooter. But IO's pitch offered a different vision, a more refined Bond experience, focused on strategic or stealthy infiltration, and engaging in less violence outside of critical targets, which for those familiar sounds not unlike the latest Hitman games. In Elverdam's words, this helped us convince the Eon Group that there's a sophistication in how we treat the agent fantasy. With no actor currently tied to the series, IO had the rare opportunity to craft their own character, and while the studio remains tight-lipped about who they've cast, it is hard to miss what looks unmistakably like Patrick Gibson of Dexter fame behind the pixels. And speaking of his face, the long thin scar down his cheek is an awesome nod to his literary counterpart, as Ian Fleming's original version of Bond had the same 3-inch scar, a detail eternally absent from the films and a sign that the developers are paying attention to the source material. IO's open-level Hitman games have continued to demonstrate a fresh approach to espionage and gameplay mechanics that seemingly keep up with the times. However, the visual style of the game bears more than a striking resemblance to their one and only other IP, the less than successful Kane and Lynch series, and that might sound like a concern until you consider that IO experimenting with high-octane action simply gives them a head start on what does or doesn't work mechanically, because whether Bond avoids unnecessary violence or not, there is no escape that a misstep will get him into a close quarters fight.
Do you have an appointment?
The name's Bond.
James Bond. He's with me.
And you are? Don't think we've had the pleasure.
Now let's not get ahead of ourselves, James.
Narrative-wise, First Light puts players in the shoes of a young, unproven Bond, unrefined yet comically arrogant, and already exemplifying the untamed levity that makes him such an entertaining protagonist.
Tell me, what do you do, James?
Lately, headhunting.
Blessed with creative freedom, First Light still embraces the classic origin story. Orphaned young, fresh out of the Navy, and irritating his superiors with his sharp-witted and rebellious nature.
The grand tour of every major boarding school in Britain.
Always at the top of his class.
Always at odds with authority, same thing in the Navy.
His mission is to earn the iconic 00 designation, meaning he's still raw on figuring out who he is.
Jet lag. Gets me every time.
While navigating a web of international intrigue that involves a rogue 00 agent, stunning locales, and all spread throughout a globe-trotting conspiracy. We knew there would be gunfights and stealth takedowns, but now we know that there are spy gadgets complete with classic feigned indifference.
So you shouldn't have.
Wholly inappropriate sexual innuendos. Elaborate death traps which still fail to curb his eternal sarcasm.
I suppose this is another teachable moment.
And even high-octane car chases in a roaring V8 Aston Martin, which appears to be the particular model driven back in the 70s by Roger Moore and the Persuaders, if we're talking tributes. And of course, the tributes don't end there, from Scaramanga's Kaofing Can Island and the recognisable junks that surround it, to strategic peacocking through chess. Whether slinking through a neon-soaked nightclub or racing down the narrow streets in a vintage car, the game at least seems aware of which notes it should be hitting. But what will no doubt make the experience special is that it'll be filtered through IO Interactive's signature gameplay design. That means freedom of approach, stealth, action, unique tools in the form of gadgets, allowing players to tackle missions in their own way. If they pull off the Hitman-level craftsmanship that they're promoting and successfully apply it to the unique fantasy world of 007, in theory it could be one of the most natural pairings in Bond's lengthy catalogue of games. IO has also indicated that First Light is just the beginning of a longer journey, which no doubt will be success-driven. Slated for release in 2026 and launching on the PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo and PC, we'll learn even more during IO Interactive's showcase at Summer Game Fest this week, which will feature a deeper dive into gameplay and the story. For now, we're left with the tantalizing promise of a long overdue reimagining of the legendary spy, brought to life through IO's inventive gameplay and storytelling, making him ready to introduce to a whole new generation of gamers. Don't forget to like or subscribe for more content. Happy gaming!